Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. And we're going to be talking about something that I probably get the most emails about. And that is something that happens when people are making kefir and their kefir over-ferments and it gets thin and you can see a lot of whey pockets in it. And I also want to teach you how to make it thick if you like it thick. And I want to explain to you what's happening and I'm going to put some pictures on this podcast for those who look at it on YouTube so you can actually see what's really happening and what I'm talking about, because almost every day I probably get a question about this sometimes, people wanting to know, well, their kefir, especially in the summertime, their kefir is separating into whey and curds and they want to know why. So first of all, kefir is a fantastic fermented food. It's one of the best ones because it has 50 plus bacteria. And many diseases begin in your digestive system, including your mental and physical diseases. So once you heal the gut, your digestive system will begin to work properly and disease symptoms will begin to resolve. But if you don't have a rich and diverse microbiome, and you're hundreds of trillions of bacteria, if you don't have all the strains you need, you're missing some of the important elements, you're going to have problems. You're going to have things that, you could have leaky gut. You have a special bacteria in your gut called Akkermansia municipalia that feeds off the mucus in your gut lining and keeps that gut lining sealed. And if you're missing that, you're going to struggle with leaky gut symptoms like IBS, things like that. So if you have a lot of food allergies are often caused by a very big strain of bacteria, Clostridia. I think that's what the name of it is. It's huge. It's got 100 species in it. It's often killed by antibiotics. If you've taken a lot of antibiotics, you'll probably start developing food allergies because without that strain, you can't consume your food properly and you'll develop food allergies. If you don't have enough bifidobacteria in your gut, you'll often have wheat and dairy allergies. So you need all these, and all of these different strains do different things. They all do different things to nourish and keep you healthy and nourish your microbiome and keep your immune system running strong. But if you're missing a bunch of strains due to, your diet, over antibiotic use, things like that, then, kefir is a great place to start to try to heal that. I've had my kefir grains for 2 decades. They keep making me kefir every day. And let me tell you, these grains are combinations of 50 plus bacteria and good yeast. We don't talk enough about good yeast. And believing me, these grains have a mind of their own. They do their own thing. I am just the observer. They will make my kefir and every single day. And if I haven't given them enough milk, they kind of start to separate into whey. They let me know they're running out of food. My grains usually float to the top of the jar. They have like little life jackets on them. They kind of float around. So that's normal. They can be around any place in your jar. But mine like to be very active at the top because after the fermentation's done, they make a kefir extremely well and they multiply double in size every week if you make kefir every day. And they demand that I pay attention to them. If I get too many in my jars and don't add enough milk, when I open my jars, they will spit and bubble at me, like I don't have enough milk. So they're intense. They are a living microorganism that is so good for you that I believe has kept me healthy for many, many, many decades. So if you don't try any other food that I recommend, kefir is the best place to start because kefir is my go-to food. It's the first cultured food I tried that has made me well in so many ways. And kefir grains, which is very cool, will last forever if you take care of them. Mine are 20 years going strong, but I take care of my grains. We make kefir constantly. So I love this quote by Bill Byronson, who said, "There's no point trying to hide from bacteria, for they are on you and around you always in numbers you can't even conceive of." And that is true. And so you might as well make them your friend. They're already doing so many things for you inside your body. They help you digest your food. They boost your immune system. They create more T cells that help you to fight pathogens and foreign invaders. They even help you breathe. They help your food cravings. They work on enzymes in the gut that help lower blood pressure. They do help with things like blood sugar control. They do so many different things when you consume them. They have 19 anti-inflammatory markers that work in the body in a very, very powerful way. And they keep you healthy. And it is the number one reason I keep drinking it, besides that I love it. But without it, I've noticed a huge difference in my life. So I'll never stop consuming kefir. So let's get into the details of what kefir's doing. So over-fermented kefir, and that's when you have a huge amount of whey in your jar, and like half of the bottom of the jar is whey and the top is curds. That means your kefir is over-fermented. And this is one of the things that people don't understand. And it happens because the grains are growing, or the temperatures have gotten warmer, or you're not giving them enough milk for the amount of grains in the jar. And it's not a bad thing, so don't throw it out. The kefir's still good. You can still make it into a smoothie. You can stir it up. But kefir grains are extremely active and strong, and it's just a sign that they need more food. They will multiply very quickly when you make kefir if you don't have enough milk in the jar. And so when they separate into whey and curds, that means they've run out of food. And it'll make the kefir very thin instead of, kefir is kind of more like a pourable yogurt. It can get thicker, but it's a little bit thinner than yogurt, and it can be even a lot thinner than yogurt if it over ferments. So if your grains have increased, if you make kefir every day, your grains are going to double every week, okay? And the only exception with that is with non-dairy. If you're doing non-dairy kefir, they don't always multiply as fast. They don't like that they don't have lactose in the non-dairy kefir. So sometimes they don't grow very much or grow very, very slowly. Because what I have people do when they do non-dairy milk, because most nut milks don't have very much sugar in them, and they need that as a food source. So I have to have them add a teaspoon of raw turbinado sugar or date paste or something to give the micros something to eat. Remember, that's not for you, that's for them. And so they don't multiply quite as fast as the ones done in milk or goat's milk kefir. So if the grains have increased in size because you've been making kefir every day, then you'll need to add more milk or remove some of the grains because they're going to ferment that milk faster, and you'll notice that the kefir is ready and thick in a smaller amount of time. Usually it takes 24 hours. But if you've got a lot more grains than you have milk, then they're going to be done a lot faster. So you're going to have to watch it. And the way to tell when it's ready, you'll see little pockets, like little circle pockets of whey in the kefir, and you know it's ready. And it'll also be tart tasting. And if you let it sit longer, the kefir will start to separate into whey and curds. And remember, that's not bad, but it can create quite a panic for people, and they fear they've done something wrong. So don't throw out your over-fermented kefir. Don't do that. It's still good. It's never ruined. It's just really fermented and probably more sour tasting. So one of the two things have happened. I'm going to reiterate all this again. First, number one, you probably have too many grains for the amount of milk you're using. So you'll need to add more milk or remove some of the grains. Secondly, your house is probably warmer and fermenting faster. And again, you need to add more milk or remove some of the grains. So if you see clear yellowish liquid, separating from the curds, and you see that big thing, it's past the thickening stage. It's done. So it's not bad. It's just a little more sour and less appealing looking. So don't give up. And guys, I have a really good time-lapse video on this. I'm going to show you 2 jars. One has a bunch of grains and one doesn't. And I'm going to show you a time-lapse video that I made that will help you to see what happens and how you get that whey in there. So check that out. If you're listening, you can go over to the YouTube and watch it on there and see the video. So what can you do if your kefir is over fermented? You can separate the grains from the kefir, and then, like say, if you have a jar and you get the kefir grains out of the jar and you've got a lot of whey in there, you can drink it or put it into a smoothie, shake it and stir it up to get the grains and the whey distributed. But another great tip is to add a prebiotic to that, like Prebio Plus or potato starch or something like that, or inulin. Put a little scoop in there of that, shake up your jar, and then stick it back in the fridge. And next morning, it most likely will be creamy again, because basically what you're doing when you do that is you're giving it something to eat, because you're giving it a prebiotic, which is food for bacteria. So it kind of wakes it up and gets it acting again. And it helps to make your kefir creamy again. Now, if it's overly sour, you can add some fresh fruit to it, make it into a smoothie, and the bacteria will eat some of the sugars in the fruit. If you put, like, let's say it's gotten really sour and separated, you can put a drop of strawberry in there, let it sit in the fridge for a couple hours, and it will calm it down. It will give the bacteria something to eat. It will make it less sour tasting. And it also increases the nutrients, like the B vitamins go through the roof when you do that. And instead of making your regular recipe with a large amount of kefir, split it up. For instance, if kefir is overly sour, just use a cup of kefir in a recipe. Where you normally would use a cup, use a half a cup. And then fill the other with whatever. You could add juice to it or milk or something else to make it, or coconut milk or nut milk, and blend it all together, and it will make it taste a lot less sour. You can also add some more milk to your super sour kefir and let it ferment again on the counter for a few hours to let it eat some more food. That's similar to adding a prebiotic to it. This also helps lessen that sharp twang if it gets too strong. You probably don't need to add kefir grains. It will work without it because the kefir is so strong in the jar. And I have really good articles. One is My Kefir is Too Sour, How to Make Your Kefir Creamy Again, and Second Ferment Your Kefir. I have all three of those articles that are great, that can give you even more tips than I'm giving you here. And I will put that in the link description to go, because it's something people have. It just happens because sometimes you get busy, or sometimes you don't realize that your grains have grown. So now, if your kefir is really, really thick and it's hard to strain, pour your kefir into a strainer that is placed over a bowl and stir that kefir really hard with a rubber spatula or wooden spoon or rubber spoon, and stir it vigorously. I have a little video on this that I can show you that I'll link in the description below. And it can take a while because sometimes the curd gets so thick it's hard to get it off the grains. But if you use a rubber spatula and just stir it like crazy, it won't hurt the grains by doing this, and the kefir will start to flow out into the strainer, and then you can save what's in the bottom of the bowl and drink it. It's great. Or put it in the fridge. You can also use some of the whey that drains to the bottom of the bowl, because some of the whey will come off first, and use a big spoon, get it out of the bottom bowl, and pour it over top of the grains if it's super thick. And that'll kind of thin it out and make the kefir get off of some of the grains. So I usually, stir it till it, most of the cheese is falling through the strainer. But it can be a workout a little bit, but it works really well. So sometimes your kefir gets really thick, sometimes it gets really thin, but I've got a really good video on how to trouble strain your kefir. So I'm going to put that in the link. And again, go to YouTube or go to my website and you can watch this. So how to tell if your kefir is working. If your kefir looks like milk and it's not separating to whey and curds and it doesn't have a sour taste, then one or two things could be happening. Either something's wrong with your grains and their grains have died, or you've added way too much milk for the number of grains in your jar. That's usually the problem. You've got too much milk in there. And the other thing is your house is colder, and so it needs to ferment longer, because a lot of people don't realize all of a sudden their kefir starts changing, and it's because the house is colder at night, so it takes longer to ferment. But the biggest thing that you can do is to taste it. If it's getting tart and sour, then your kefir is working. And it should also thicken, but you need to watch it to make sure it doesn't over-ferment, because it will get thicker. So I always use cold milk straight from the fridge to make my kefir. I don't use heating pads. Do not use heating pads or anything like that. Even if your house is cold, try to get it into a warmer spot into the mid-60s, but it hates artificial heat, kefir. And it kills some of the strains off. It really hates it. So don't use any kind of heating pad on your kefir, because it will act up, believe you me. It does not like artificial heat. So kefir grains are very strong, and they make thick, tart kefir, and you will love it, but you just need a few little things to help you. So let's recap one more time. If your kefir is separating to whey and curds, you got too many grains in there for the amount of milk. If it's not fermenting and staying like milk and it doesn't look like it's turning thicker, or and it doesn't, you could taste it, see if it's sour tasting. That means you probably have too much milk in there or your house is too cold. All of this is going to be easier if you look at some of the videos I'm posting on here so you understand what I'm talking about. You can see the visual along with what I'm saying. So that will help a lot if you see that. So I really want you to make good kefir. It is so life-changing. And this is one of my most popular articles. And I want you to really understand what's happening, because once you understand what's happening, then you can adjust. And, watch your kefir those first few weeks, and you'll learn so much as they ferment and make kefir for you. They're a living, bacteria that is residing in you already and are all around you. And those strains are, very present in kefir, and they want to live in you. So you might as well watch them and observe them as they eat all the milk sugars, the lactose out of your milk, and make it 99.9% lactose free. And then they make you probiotics too, which is probably the coolest thing. So they eat those sugars, make it tart. That's why it tastes, that's why things that are fermented like, sour cream and all those things have been fermented. And that's why they taste sour, like yogurts. The drink is only 1% sugar or less because kefir has so many bacteria in it. It really ferments out all the sugars, but it has 50 probiotics. And there isn't anything else on the planet that can do this quite as powerful as kefir does. And it's been around for a very, very long time. They actually can't make kefir grains. Scientists have tried to do it. I kind of love that. They can't make kefir grains, so they can't reproduce them. And kefir grains will last forever if you take care of them. So they want to hang out with you in your kitchen and make your food a spectacular superpower food. And all you need is a jar, a lid, a culture, and some milk, and you have got a jar of kefir in about 24 hours. So give this video a watch on here, the things I put on here just to help you, or you can head over to my website and see it on there too, because I'm putting it on there with the article, so you can see all the different things I'm talking about and give you tips and tricks that will help you make really good kefir, because when you feel good, you do good. And it is a life-changing event for me to have these cultured foods in my life. All of them. All of them do different things. All of them have helped me in unbelievable ways. And I've got new products that have been helping me in ways that I never dreamed they would do. And they happen to have different strains of bacteria in them than some of the other ones. And all of these different foods are easy and fun to make. And they last in your fridge for a very long time. They're sustainable. Usually you can take a portion from the first one and make another one, and the same kefir grains just keep making kefir. That's why I love them, because they're not expensive. Probiotic supplements can be very, very expensive. And these foods are the preferred method that the body wants to get probiotics. Way before 100 years ago, before they invented the refrigerator, we were all eating fermented foods every day because it made our food safe. And we had a very diverse microbiome. And then once they developed the refrigerator, they kind of demonized fermented foods and said fresh foods are better. And I'm not against that. I think they're great. But we stopped eating them. And then we started taking more antibiotics. And then our farming practices changed things. And now we're kind of a mess. So I'm trying to change that one person at a time. And I'm trying to make this less scary and easy for people, because once they try it, it's so much fun to do. And it's so sustaining. And you will find you're a lot less hungry when you have fermented foods in your diet. You will find you get more nutrients from your food, so it's very nourishing to the body. You're getting things that, your vitamins and minerals increase when you make kefir. The folic acid goes through the roof when you make kefir and you second ferment it with a piece of orange peel, because it gives that bacteria food. You get magnesium, you get B12 in kefir, you get all kinds of things. And it's all because of the process of fermentation done. And it's just in your counter. And it's awesome because it can be life-changing. And I have gazillions of recipes and methods to do things to make it as easy as possible for you, because I'm busy too. So I like to make these foods a lot, and I've found fun, easy ways to do it. So head on over to my website or check this out on YouTube, because you can see the videos in the article, or go to the article below, and help you make the best kefir you can make, because kefir is worth the effort, and it's very little effort. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.